im Whisky Talk mit Head Distiller Ned Gahen von der Waterford Distillery. Viel Spaß! Tachchen, der Andi heute ohne David und ich bin gerade in Irland im Urlaub und habe dabei eine wunderschöne Tour in einer sehr jungen Whisky-Distillerie in Waterford, Irland bekommen und stehe deswegen jetzt gerade hier zusammen und wechsle auch gerade jetzt gleich ins Englische rüber, zusammen mit. I'm standing here together with...
Hi everyone, hi Andy, I'm Ned Gahan, Head Distiller here at Waterford Distillery in Waterford, Ireland. You're very welcome.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. Yeah, the Waterford Distillery, probably a very new distillery, as I told the people. So you're just operating there distilling for 4 years?
4 years. So we started distilling in 2016. In February 2016, we renovated from the brewery that Diageo had owned previously in 2015. So yeah, we're just going over 4 years now, and we officially have whiskey, which we have tasted some of today in our tasting room.
We had some whiskey samples over here,
and also some new makes from the different farms as well. So yeah, it's been a good evening so far.
Yeah, of course, yes. And a special thing about you is when I entered your entrance hall over there, you got a huge artwork saying terroir.
Terroir, yes.
And probably some people know the word terroir in combination with Bruichladdich from Scotland, and why do you have that on the wall at Waterford Distillery?
So I suppose what makes us a little bit different is that we are probably taking terroir to the next step, in that we have individual farms. So we roughly have about 40 different farms every year. Of that 40, we have maybe 32 or 3 conventional farms. We would have 7 organic farms, and we would have 3 biodynamic farms. So we keep each farm separate. So we would look at getting roughly about 100 tonnes of barley per farm, storing it in a purpose-built facility called the Cathedral in Kilkenny, and then getting malted by Minch Malt, and we would end up with roughly around 75 tonnes of malted barley here at the distillery. So terroir is a key part of that. So we are looking at it in terms of provenance. So provenance is the umbrella term, I suppose. Terroir, traceability and transparency. So we like to say it's a 3-legged stool. What is terroir for us? It's the grain, barley that grows, its flavours are influenced by where it's grown, in the soil that it's grown, a climate, environment. So you could have a field, and in Ireland a lot of our fields are not flat, and so if you had a field like that, you would have heavier soils in the dip, because the rain would lodge there a bit more. Also, if you have trees, it'll block frost or block sun, so that all goes to affecting the flavours of the barley. So we've tasted some new makes, and I think you could probably taste it. We tasted one from O'Brien, 3 different years, same farm, 2 similar varieties, and what
probably different fields, as you mentioned.
Probably different fields, yes.
There was a difference in that one. So you got the same farmer, the same barley, of course.
Two of the same barley, yes.
But probably different years, so different fields,
yes.
And there was also a different in the new make.
Yeah. So in 1 year with the same variety, you may have had more rain.
Yeah.
You may have had more sun, and I suppose one of the things that makes the southeast of Ireland, where we're situated, such a good, actually probably the best barley growing place in the world is sunlight. So it's not direct sun as such, but sun illumination in the day. So we would have, during the summer, we might have 14 hours of sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things. We would have sunrise at 5:30 in the morning, maybe sunset at 10 o'clock. So that's important for barley as well. So that's what makes this kind of region very good for barley. So one of the things that we can do in our traceability is we map a year's weather. So we can tell in Philly O'Brien's 2015 crop how many hours sunlight was in that period, how much rain fell when it was sown, so the date it was sown until the date it was harvested. We have all that information as well, and we can map that across different years. So that's where the traceability and transparency comes in as well.
And the transparency is awesome because I think I can show one from here because they got for every barley they got a passport for the barley. So this was pretty awesome. Whoop. You got listed when it came here, from which field it was, and
a little bit about ourselves and the distillery and about Minch malt. And then you get to see the farmer. So this is
probably a control.
Richard. This is Richard.
So here you got is this fine one? Here you got the farmer, the field where the barley came from. This is totally transparency. Pretty awesome.
So on that we will include everything. So I suppose, Andy, what we potentially can do is with Richard Raftus, if we have a single farm release from Richard, we can tell you the day the grain was sowed and every step that happened along the way to the bottle. So that includes how the barley was dried, where it was stored, malted, how it was brewed, fermented, distilled, what casks it was stored in, temperatures and humidity in the different warehouses and everything. So basically, I kind of joke with the lads sometimes. I think we want a helpline because someone will ring up to ask questions and we'll be able to give an answer very, very quickly. If we do a cuvee of a lot of farms, we may not be able to give you that much information, but maybe on a single farm release there may be some way that we can scan something or get some kind of a code that will give you some information. That's for clever people than me.
But that's also the very special thing, that you just keep every barley from every farmer by itself and not mix up the barley and then distill, you brew your beer and distill your whiskey. So you're just doing one barley from one farmer for one batch, obviously.
So to date, I think we've over 120 different batches, and those 120 different batches will go into 4 cask types. So each farm gets filled roughly in the same proportion. So 50% will go into an American first fill. So if you get this one, this is an American first fill. You can see the colour of that. Okay. And I'd say probably 90+% of distilleries will use this. Okay. The second one we'll fill into at 20% is an American new cask, and you can see the colour of that. So this is actually officially whiskey now, and you can see the colour is coming on. This one then is a French. This happens to be a French premium cask, which a lot of our French casks are, and you can see the colour of that is pink. My favourite colour. So 15% of the farm will go into this, and the last 15% will go into a VDN cask, what we call a VDN cask. So sweet fortified wines, sherry, port, Madeira. This cask is actually Oloroso sherry cask. So we will put each farm into those 4 types of casks. So at the end of the day, we have ingredients. Each farm broken into different casks is an ingredient. We may put a single farm together with just American and American new. We tasted some there. We can do American first fill, American new, and French. We can add in VDN. We can do American new, French VDN. We can do French and VDN. So already on one farm, I'm after forgetting the combinations. I should actually probably work out the amount of permutations of bottles we can release, but it's basically their ingredients. And I suppose you asked the question earlier on about the cask. And the new makes are different. Totally different, yes. So for us, the cask has a huge influence. There's no point in saying it doesn't. We spend a lot of money to buy good casks, We won't be using any E150 caramel. So we spend 30% of our overall budget on wood. But we would say that 100% of our spirit is influenced by 100% of our cask. So we have different starting points for each farm, and that goes into very, very good wood, and you're hoping that it will all go according to plan and you will get good whiskey. But as you can see with these American first fill casks, this is the first time this has been filled with maturing spirit that's turned into whiskey. So if that's left for 5 years and filled again, the colour will lessen,
yep.
The impact of the wood will lessen, and the same if it's filled a third time or a fourth time. So in Ireland, to be called whiskey, it has to be above 40% in a cask such as oak. It doesn't have to be oak for 3 years, but it doesn't say how good the oak has to be. And I suppose the other thing as well is, and this may sound strange, but we only use 100% Irish barley. Irish whiskey doesn't have to use Irish barley. Mm-hmm. But we are of the belief that it's the best barley in the world, and if it costs a little bit more, we're willing to pay it because the flavours which we've tasted are fairly good.
Yeah, that's also the reason that I heard earlier that why Mark Reynier, who just owns this Waterford Distillery, probably some of you just knew him from his time at Bruichladdich, where he also did his terroir thing, and he heard that the Irish barley is a totally awesome barley, and that's why he ever dreamt of doing stuff with Irish barley, and now he's able to do it here.
I think everything aligned for Mark around that time. Obviously, the departure from Bruichladdich, the brewery that shut down here, such a wonderful facilitator, it's called. That's
old Guinness Brauerei.
Old Guinness Brauerei. Well, not old in terms of it was modernised in 2003, so it's highly state of the art. It's not like your Scottish distilleries, maybe, or some of the Irish distilleries where it's picturesque. This is what we call the facilitator. So it has all singing, all dancing, technology. The only thing that's not automated is the safe. So when we are doing our cuts, it's done by the distiller.
I was so lucky to be up there when he's doing the next cut.
That wasn't organised. No, but it was. That's very important for us that that's done on nose and taste.
Yeah. Cool. And the other thing that your Irish whiskey, of course, because you're whiskey from Ireland with only Irish ingredients, but you're only doing a double distillation.
Yes.
So, because most of the people think Irish whiskey always triple distilled, but that's not the fact.
Yeah. So Irish whiskey, I suppose, in the technical file which regulates Irish whiskey, it says it can be double or triple distilled, and whiskey can be spelled with or without an E.
You do it without, yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing without the E, and we're also double distilling. And I've been asked what's the difference in double and triple distilling. Obviously the obvious one is higher strength and that, but for me I think the conversation is how it's actually distilled.
And you're doing it very slow, right?
Very, very slowly, yeah, and I suppose that's kind of what we are double distilling. Some people could say that's the Scottish way of doing it, but if we were double distilling and another Irish or Scottish distillery were double distilling, we would probably be distilling totally different, because we run for quality. Ours is very, very slow, so our flow rate when we're on spirit collecting the spirit is less than 500 litres an hour. We could probably and would be able to run at double or triple the speed and produce a lot more quantity. But for us it's about really slow distillation that promotes a light spirit, and it gives us a much better cut for us, that we can take it really slow. And the way I look at it, if you look at it in terms of a fraction, this is your time. The quicker you go, the flavours blend into one another. The slower you go, you're able to distinguish the different points. So that's especially important for us at the start when we're making our cut from foreshots or heads to spirit, in that we don't want to collect any of those impurities at the start. But a lot of your mouthfeel oils are at the start, so we have to be important, make sure we can get that. And so the oils that you see on that glass, that's where the starting point of that is. So, like myself, slow, thick legs.
Cool. This was pretty interesting to have you here, or to be here, and thanks a lot for having us. Do you have anything you want to say to the people out there in Germany? So your first whiskey, like 1-2 years from now?
Yeah, so hopefully, again, this is depending on the casks and the whiskey, all fingers crossed. Yeah. We would hope to have a release next year. Now it will be obviously a 3 or 4 year old whiskey, it'll be very young. And we may look at something around May, April time, depending if the quality is good enough and we're happy to release it. Obviously people are very interested to see what we release, so hopefully we'll have a little bit next year, and it will be a little bit. It'll probably be 2021 or 2022 before we have a major release, which will probably be the Grand Cuvée or the mixture of farms. But I suppose we have to look at bottles and labels and how they make sure everything goes okay as well. So and I think people are probably looking forward to something coming from Waterford. Not everyone gets a chance to come here and sample the new make and the maturing spirit and the whiskey. So yeah, if I know lots of people have asked me when are we going to release, and the best thing I can say is I'm not sure either.
When it's ready.
Yeah, so some stage next year we will hopefully have whiskey out there.
Cool. Then my last question would be, because our blog is called Whiskey and Vinyl, I'm always asked the question at the end of an interview, if there is any music influence, an album, an artist that was pretty important for you in the past, at the moment, or something like that. All of the artists that you listen to when you lean down with a little bit of Waterford 3 years old whiskey.
So I suppose I particularly like songwriters who tell stories.
Okay.
I know you're a Christy Moore fan.
Yesterday on a Christy Moore concert.
I would be a Christy Moore fan, but I suppose the person I love to see and have gone to a lot of times is Bruce Springsteen.
I've seen him one time in Berlin. Awesome.
I love Bruce Springsteen. I think he tells really good stories. His music is kind of touches you as well. And actually the other day I listened to The Rising. I was in the car and I listened to The Rising just with the anniversary of 9/11, and it's just a beautiful album. I suppose the first kind of music would have been kind of Dire Straits, cool. Tom Petty, but I like all music. Dixie Chicks.
Yeah.
I like this. Vaughan Williams does. It's a bit eclectic, but basically people who tell good stories. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Paul Brady.
No.
He's an Irish folk singer as well, kind of, and his music. Declan O'Rourke, another Irish singer. Sinead O'Connor. It could go on. Yeah. Fine. Basically, people who tell stories.
So you're agreeing with us at Whiskey and Vinyl, whiskey and music sticks together.
There was a guy here yesterday, and we had a discussion about when people taste things. We had. I hope we're not going on too long now. We had a woman here a couple of years ago from America, and she was talking about a cantaloupe. Cantaloupe, have you ever heard of cantaloupe?
No.
It's kind of like a melon, but it made sense to her, it didn't make sense to me, and I looked it up. And I was saying it's much easier to say this is a mixture of the Rolling Stones and Adele. Everyone will know the music, and you can say, okay, and it's smooth and it's still a bit aggressive and rocky. So for me, I think it makes perfect sense that music and whiskey goes together.
Well then, we get enough samples here to give it cheers?
Yeah, cheers. You're going for that one.
Going with a French one.
You're going with
I
the French
like a lot,
one.
yeah.
Right, I think, is this the one that you made?
Probably.
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah, we're able to blend whiskey out of Philip O'Brien's barley.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for having us, for all your answers, and yeah, thanks.
Cheers. And I suppose hopefully we'll see some of you in Waterford at some stage. You're very welcome.
Cheers.
Sláinte. That's after opening.
Right, there's a lot.
They're all after opening up now.
Yep.